So there's the bare engine out of the packet, as you can see. So got a 16 tooth sprocket on it, which is what I normally run anyway, which is dead handy, nice new one. It's full of oil, I've checked it, so we'll just use that for running in, dump it out and put some new stuff in it. And that's about it. So we'll just go over to the bike. So next up, these are all kind of loose at the moment, and that bracket there is loose, so we'll take this lower engine mount out so we can obviously bolt it into that one and into there as well. So those two mounting points, so we'll take it off the stand, whip that out, and then we'll get ready to lift the engine in. And as we've got a new oil cooler, and the Z140, by the way, runs longer lines to it, so the lines actually go into the engine, not from the head, basically they go into the crankcase itself, so you do need to run longer lines if you do this conversion from a wax 140. So I'll whip this old crappy cooler off and pop the new one on once it's got the engine in. That's the foot peg brace and lower engine mounts off, and then we will just pop some grease onto, like so, pop some grease onto these bolts so that obviously they don't get stuck in there. I doubt they would, but it's not a bad idea just to put some grease on those. So we'll just get those lubed up as it were, and then we'll get the engine in a minute. So hopefully it'll go in with no fighting. Got plenty of space, so it should all be fine. And I'll be back in a mo showing you fitted up. Okay, so the engine's in. It's loosely done up at the moment, so I've done all these lower bolts all tight now, so we've got the engine in position because these are a bit tricky to get done. So now we'll just tighten up these two, and then the engine will be in and done. So next job will be to put the sump tray on, then we can obviously get it on the stand and it'll be stable. They just bolt in there and up underneath, and you know, thread lock those bolts obviously because they do rattle loose because they're connected to the engine itself. So once we've got the sump guard catch tray on, then we'll look at the manifold, carburetor, oil cooler and all the other gubbins. So we'll sort of do it in that order anyway, but that's the main bit of the job done now, so just fitting all the ancillaries up. So we've got the engine bolts torqued up now, and as usual we'll get the handy paint pen out so we know in case these come loose, because they do have a habit of doing that, but these are done up nice and tight. So we've marked that top one, as you can see. We'll do the same on this lower one just down here, so always good just to give it a quick check over between races. So the gear lever's on, as you can see. Again, get the little paint pen out, and if you ever need to take this off, if you need to change gearing or whatever, you can know exactly what spline to put it back on, so it's the same every time for your foot. The oil cooler's on. I've got to put the lines on next, but that's on the other side of the bike underneath. And then we've just popped the kickstarter on. And this is the newer angled style that obviously clear the rear set, as you can see there. So just going to pop the manifold on, which is just over here. As you can see, this is a Bucky style manifold from Parker Racing again, so it's adjustable so you can kind of get it in line. And although this has got a O-ring here, just to be on the safe side, I'm going to get some sealant, which is just here. So get this clear RTV sealant, put a thin smear over here, and then bolt that up, and then that's a kind of fit and forget item really, because obviously you don't want any air leaks. So we'll just get that done now. Right, so that's the manifold put on. So again, put a gasket with the RTV sealant either side of the gasket, and then a little bit of thread lock on the bolts, and that's in there, as you can see. And for this type of frame, we obviously need this centralised, so the carburetor's in the middle there. So that's another little job done there. So next up, we'll get the oil cooler lines fitted up, and then what next? Probably exhaust silencer and electric. I was going to mount the oil cooler lines next, which on this particular engine, on the YX engines, they come off of here, but on this engine, the Z140, they go there and there. But obviously with them being in a bit of a different spot, they're going to be routed a bit differently. So what I'm going to do now is going to get the exhaust fitted up so we can sort of see where that runs, and then kind of see what clearance we've got, etc. So I'm going to do that instead, and then get the exhaust mounted up with the silencer, at the back, and then we'll route the oil cooler lines nice and neatly, so they're obviously not touching any of the exhaust, etc. We can get a nice kind of route for them to go up onto the oil cooler like so. So that's the exhaust on, all bolted up, and as per my last videos, I just put 2 nuts on there and do them up against one another just to act as a lock nut. Again, don't want your exhaust rattling off. And then same on the silencer there, as you can see. So I made a little spacer to space it and get it in line nicely. Although it's got a nut in the frame welded in, I've just put a nylock on the back there as well. Again, just for security reasons really, and not having DNFs, which is what we don't want in racing really, because we want to go there, have loads of track time and fun, and not have a day ruined by just a simple bolt coming loose. So that is that done. So now we will look at routing these oil lines and getting a nice path for them away from the hot exhaust if we can. So I'll figure that out in a minute. So that's the oil lines fitted up. Haven't trimmed them to length, as you can see. So we've on this particular engine, they're down here. Yeah, we're just going to get those trimmed to length and pop the Jubilee clips on, and I'll show you once I've done that. Obviously we need to keep clearance there for the spark plug cap, etc. So just need to do some sort of careful measuring and get it looking neat. So I'll show you what I'll do in a minute. That's the oil lines done and all looking pretty neat. So we've got plenty of clearance here for the spark plug cap, and you obviously shorten that one up there, and being neat, obviously got those round the same way on each one. So yeah, there's a bit of debate as to whether you should really run an oil cooler on these engines, to be honest, as they're air cooled. But you know, with the endurance racing we do on these at times, you know, 3-hour endurance, I don't think there's any harm in doing that. Obviously you've got risk of these failing, etc., but as long as you use quality products and do it up properly, and decent quality Jubilee clips, etc., you know, you should be fine. And I've been running one for the last 2 years and they've all been okay, and this particular oil cooler from Parker Racing seems decent quality, so I'm sure it'll be absolutely fine. But now we've obviously added a oil cooler, we've got extra capacity of oil there, so once I've run it up, we might need to top up the oil, but you know, the oil that comes in these as standard will be just for running in anyway, and we'll dump it out and put some good stuff in there after that. So yeah, but it's been an absolute pleasure to work on. Obviously having a nice shiny new engine, all the threads are nice, everything's spot on, so it's really, really good fun putting it together. So there we are. So what's next then, really? Probably the electrics, I think, and then we'll look at getting the carb sorted and on there, and then sort the throttle out, and I've got a new throttle cable to put on, etc. But as you can see, we're making pretty good progress so far, and I'll report back soon. So just thought I'd show you the wiring loom that comes with it. So this is a bit more upmarket than the standard YX stuff. So this is a digital ignition. It's got waterproof connectors there, as you can see, so it all seems pretty nice quality. So we'll get that wired up, and I don't know where I'm going to fit this yet, but we'll try and find a suitable space, you know, somewhere on the frame to get it mounted up out of harm's way. Probably put some foam around it to stop vibration, etc. But we'll see where's a good spot to put it where it's not going to get in harm's way, really. Right, just mounted the coil up, just tested it there, and we have a spark, so all the wiring's good, and it's really nice wiring loom. Actually got these little waterproof connectors there, and these are all a good tight fit on there, etc. So you know, now we know we've got a spark, we'll start tidying it up and finding a home for all of this electrical gubbins, get the old cable ties out. So I'll show you what I've done in a mo.